Hello and welcome to HITC Sport, and welcome back to our weekly Monday edition of some Irish lad rounding up the happenings in the world of football. And to be fair, over the last 7 days, nothing really stands out. McClean! As an Irishman, it's been pretty normal. McClean! Can't really seem to remember anything out of the ordinary happening. McClean! But seriously, what a result. Knocking out the Euro 2016 semi-finalists, although taking Gareth Bale out of the Wales team is a bit like putting Mike Tyson in a wig, suddenly they look a lot less threatening. Hopefully the World Cup playoffs go a little better than last time, when Thierry Henry popped up the handball with all the subtlety of Dermot f***ing Connolly. Why am I making GA references on a channel where 70% of our demographic are British? They won't have a f***ing clue what I'm talking about. Then again, I don't think most of you do anyway. England won a couple of qualifiers thanks to Harry Kane, but of course nobody gives a semblance of a about those games except the lads who play in them, even then. So moving on to the Premier League, I hope none of you suffered a heart attack from the thrill-a-minute ride at Anfield this weekend. I was in danger of dying of boredom when Manchester United turned up and spoiled the game for 90 minutes. Yet never mind the fact that 50,000 people paid £40 to go and see the damn game. Let's just make it as entertaining as an episode of Grey's Anatomy. And that is not entertaining, it's just a show about a lot of doctors getting off in a supply closet or something. Back to the football.
This is not Premier League. This is not the best league in the world. This is football from the 19th century.
Jose, I have a few questions. Honestly, you could have stuck Pat the Baker up front and he would have seen about as much of the ball as Lukaku did. There was absolutely no attempt to win the game or even score a goal from Mourinho's side. Surprising when Dejan Lovren defends like a goat on morphine half the time. But come on, is anybody surprised? In the big games, Mourinho has always bored everybody into submission. For the last 10 years, doctors are probably been prescribing Mourinho's big games as a prescription for insomniacs. Whoever he's in charge of, and it's never the same crowd for long. So United fans, don't get too attached. He always parks the bus in the big games, and at the end of the season, he more often than not wins a trophy. Arsenal just lost to Watford.
Wenger, I've got one thing to say, mate. Wenger has got to go.
Well, that's a shock. Plot twist. Did not see that coming. Except no, we've been hearing that for the last 10 years. Lads, he's not going anywhere, so just get used to Granit Xhaka making Tom Cleverley look like f***ing Zidane and letting Troy Deeney bully you out of 3 points.
Well, I'm not going to be one to tell Mr. Wenger about himself, but there's a reason they lost and it wasn't because of one penalty. Cojones, I think the word is.
Lads, when the opposition is going on TV after the game to roast you, you know you're in a right mess. Seriously though, Arsenal were pretty pathetic. In their last 5 meetings, Watford have won 3 of them. Hector Bellerin might as well have f***ing stayed at Vicarage Road. Alexis Sanchez was left out of the squad, presumably because he couldn't be f***ed with Danny Welbeck and Alex Iwobi this week, after getting dumped out of the World Cup with Chile on Tuesday. It doesn't really matter whether Watford's penalty should have been given or not. Spoilers, it should have. Arsenal's problems were like fire deeper. So what's going on here? Have they won the World Cup? Oh wait, no, Roy Hodgson's in charge. Of course not. No, they've won a game and scored their first league goal since May. This might have been Crystal Palace's first league win of the season, only took them 2 months, but it was Roy Hodgson's first win, excluding his weekly bingo night down the local pub, since June 2016. Since then, Marvel have released 5 movies, the Olympics have came and went, and a game show host has been given access to nuclear weapons. Yeah, that was a clever idea. So it was Hodgson's first win since beating Wales. That sounded like crack to me. And what a victory it was. To a man, every Palace player grafted and actually defended like they gave a shit about the fans who paid their wages. Pity they couldn't have played like that at the start of the season. They might not have cost a man his job after 360 minutes of football. Frank de Boer is sitting at home probably cursing his luck that he didn't have Wilfred Zaha, but had Lee Chung-Young to work with. I know it's early days, but Roy Hodgson and Zaha look like a good fit. He's clearly believed in the winger since a young age. He gave him his England debut, you know, before Zaha remembered he was African. After what went down with David Moyes, it's a good job Roy doesn't have a daughter, am I right, Wilf? Who am I kidding? She'd probably look like Susan Boyle. Without Alvaro Morata, Chelsea looked absolutely toothless up front. Michi Batshuayi, why is your touch so horrendous? It's a shame they don't have any other striker on the books who knows where the back of the net is. I can't think of any. Give me a shout if you do. Remember when Huddersfield were top of the league? What a crazy 2 weeks that was. Now they haven't won a game in 2 months, and Tom Ince is showing everyone just how insane it was that Inter Milan once showed an interest in him. So lads, haven't actually asked, how was your weekend? Unless your wife left you. Calm down lad, most of these lads haven't even sat their GCSEs. Were involved in a car crash, been there, done that, or you're Welsh. Then I'm guessing it wasn't as bad as Tom Edwards. An 18-year-old kid whose 53 minutes of professional football consists of getting torn a new asshole with Manchester City. Now, it's a good way to ease a teenager right back into his first ever Premier League game. Oh, I know, let's throw him against the side who won the last 2 home games 5-0. The poor kid's probably going to be seeking counselling for the next 2 years. But let's talk about Man City. Wow, they are really clicking into gear. Gabriel Jesus is making everyone forget that Aguero was involved in a car crash. Not me though, because I've already referenced it in about 5 videos this week. David Silva is aging like a fine wine, minus the psycho buzz cut. And Kevin De Bruyne is reminding reminding ginger people everywhere that they're not just destined to grow up to be somebody's whiny sidekick. Newcastle haven't won at Southampton in 13 years, so to come away with a 2-2 draw is actually a decent result for the Magpies. And it's a nice change for the Geordies, used to getting thrashed after a 13-hour return bus trip that still stinks of last night's piss. Does Shane Long score? What are you, clinically insane? Probably yes, because I just seem to be asking myself questions at this stage. Long has scored once in nearly 50 games. He's a centre forward. Maybe he should have just stuck to the hurling. Again with the GA quips, I don't understand this shit. Manolo Gabbiadini did score though, twice, who looks like Luis Suarez in comparison. Some games just follow a script of the utmost predictability. Mikel Antonio scored against Burnley and celebrated like a cartoon character, again. A West Ham forward elbowed somebody in the head, again. And Chris Wood scored a late equaliser, again. Moving on to Everton, Ronald Koeman is still under pressure after an uninspiring 1-1 draw with Brighton, but as they might have spent heavily, they're going nowhere fast. I'm just gonna say it, was Roberto Martinez that bad an option after all? Yes. Anyway, cheers for watching lads. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, give it a share, and as always, I'll talk to you in a while.